Captain Jake Morrison walked through the docking bay of Nexus Station, his boots making loud sounds on the metal floor. Around him, alien ships floated like jewels in space. The Altari ships looked like they were made of crystal and light. The Zarak ships seemed alive, their hulls moving like breathing skin. Other ships had designs that hurt human eyes to look at directly. Then there was his ship, the HSS Defiance. It looked like a gray brick with guns stuck on it. The hull was covered in thick armor plates that had scratches and dents from years of use. Big weapon mounts jutted out from the sides like metal tumors. Compared to the beautiful alien ships, it looked like junk. Jake heard the aliens talking as he passed. Their translator devices turned their words into English. "Look at that ugly thing," one said. "How does it even fly?" asked another. "Humans are so primitive," laughed a third. Jake kept walking. He had heard it all before. Every time humans came to trade with other species, the aliens made fun of their ships. They called them slow, ugly, and weak. Jake let them talk. They did not know what they were really looking at. At the station's main hub, Jake met Commander Lisa Brooks. She was the human representative on Nexus Station. Her job was to help human traders and keep peace between humans and aliens. But lately that job was getting harder. "Jake, we need to talk," Lisa said. Her face looked worried. "The Hegemony Council is meeting today. They want to kick humans out of the Trade Alliance." Jake was not surprised. The Hegemony Council was run by the most powerful alien species. They made the rules for trade and travel between star systems. For months, they had been saying that humans were too young and too violent to be part of the galaxy's civilized races. "Who is leading this?" Jake asked. "Admiral Kexton of the Altari Empire," Lisa replied. "He says human ships are a danger to everyone. He claims our technology is too primitive and our weapons too crude." Jake laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Crude? He has no idea. Later that day, the Hegemony Council held a public meeting. The Great Hall of Nexus Station was filled with beings from dozens of different worlds. Some looked almost human, while others were so alien that Jake could barely understand what he was looking at. Admiral Kexton stood at the center of the hall. He was tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished crystal. When light hit him, he seemed to glow from within. His voice was smooth and cold when he spoke. "Fellow citizens of the galaxy," he began, "we face a problem. The species called humans wants to join our trade alliance, but look at their ships." A huge screen appeared above the hall. It showed images of human ships next to alien vessels. The comparison made the human ships look even worse. Numbers appeared showing that alien ships were faster, had better shields, and used less energy. "These primitive vessels are an insult to our advanced civilization," Kexton continued. "They are slow, inefficient, and covered in crude weapons. The humans build their ships like they expect to fight wars everywhere they go." Many aliens in the crowd made sounds of agreement. Some laughed at the images of human ships. Others shook their heads in what looked like pity. "Humans are too violent for our peaceful alliance," Kexton said. "They should return to their home system and stay there until they learn to build proper ships." Jake sat in the human section with his crew. Chief Engineer Pete Collins was a big man with rough hands from years of working on ship engines. He was trying hard not to get angry. Weapons Officer Maria Santos sat next to him. She was small but tough, and she knew more about fighting than most aliens could imagine. "Can you believe this guy?" Pete whispered. "He thinks our ships are junk." Maria smiled, but it was not a nice smile. "Let him think that. It might be useful someday." Jake said nothing. He watched Kexton give his speech and saw how the other aliens reacted. They really believed that humans were primitive. They thought human ships were weak because they looked ugly. They had no idea what those ships could really do. The vote was close, but humans stayed in the Trade Alliance. Many aliens still wanted to give them a chance. But Jake knew this was not over. Kexton and his supporters would try again. Next time they might succeed. After the meeting, Jake and his crew returned to their ship. The Defiance sat in its dock like an old guard dog surrounded by show animals. The other ships in the bay were beautiful, but Jake would not trade his ugly ship for any of them. "Captain," Maria said as they walked up the loading ramp, "what do you think will happen next?" Jake looked back at the alien ships one more time. "They will keep pushing until they force us to show them what our ships can really do. And when that day comes, they will stop laughing." Inside the ship, the crew went about their normal duties. The corridors were narrow and functional, with pipes and cables running along the walls. Everything was built to be fixed quickly and to keep working even when damaged. It was not beautiful, but it was strong. Pete went to the engine room to check on their power systems. The human ship used different technology than the aliens. Instead of fancy energy crystals or living bioengines, it had simple fusion reactors that could run for years without stopping. They were not elegant, but they worked. Maria went to the weapons deck. She ran her hands along the control panels for the ship's guns. To aliens, they looked like crude projectile weapons. The aliens preferred energy beams and plasma cannons that made pretty light shows. But Maria knew that sometimes the old ways were the best ways. Jake went to the bridge and sat in his captain's chair. Through the main screen, he could see alien ships coming and going from the station. They moved like dancers, smooth and graceful. But grace would not help them if real danger came. He thought about what Admiral Kexthon had said. The alien was right about one thing. Humans did build their ships like they expected to fight wars. That was because they knew that the universe was not always a safe place. Someday something would come along that could not be reasoned with or impressed by beautiful ships. When that day came, the galaxy would be glad that humans built their ships to fight. 3 weeks after the meeting at Nexus Station, Admiral Helen Carter received a message that made her smile. The Galactic Defense Force wanted to test human ships in a military exercise. They claimed it was to see if humans could work with alien forces. But Carter knew the real reason. They wanted to embarrass humans in front of the whole galaxy. Carter was the commander of the human fleet. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been fighting in space for 30 years, and she knew when someone was trying to pick a fight. The aliens thought they could show everyone how weak human ships were. They were about to learn something new. The message came from Admiral Kexthon himself. His holographic image appeared on Carter's ship with his usual cold smile. "Admiral Carter," he said in his smooth voice, "the Galactic Defense Force invites your fleet to join us in a training exercise. We want to see how well humans can fight alongside civilized forces." Carter kept her face blank, but inside she was laughing. "How many ships will you bring, Admiral?" 47 vessels from 6 different species, Kexthon replied. "We will provide a fair test of your abilities. And humans. You may bring as many ships as you wish," Kexthon said. He was trying not to smile too much. "Though I suggest no more than 10. We would not want the exercise to take too long." Carter nodded. "We will bring 12 ships. When and where?" "The Void Sector in 1 week. The Ancient Keepers will observe to make sure everything is fair." Kexthon's image flickered off, but Carter could hear him laughing before the connection ended. 1 week later, the two fleets faced each other in empty space. The alien fleet was a sight to see. Altari crystal ships caught starlight and threw it back in rainbow patterns. Xerox bioships moved like living creatures, their hulls rippling with muscle-like tissue. Ships from 4 other species added to the display with designs that seemed to bend light and space around them. The human fleet looked like a collection of flying garbage cans. 12 gray ships hung in space like metal boxes with engines stuck on the back. Their hulls were covered in armor plates and weapon mounts that looked like they had been welded on by someone who did not care how ugly they looked. Captain Danny Phillips commanded the HSS Retribution, one of the human ships. He sat on his bridge and watched the alien fleet through his main screen. "Look at them showing off," he said to his crew. "All that fancy dancing and pretty lights." His weapons officer, Lieutenant Carl White, checked his instruments. "Their formations are perfect, Captain." "Very impressive. Pretty to look at," Danny agreed. "But this is not a parade." On the alien side, commanders were sharing private communication channels. They made jokes about the ugly human ships and bet on how quickly the exercise would be over. Some aliens thought it would take an hour. Others gave the humans only 30 minutes. Admiral Kexthon stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human ships with satisfaction. Soon the whole galaxy would see how primitive these humans really were. After today, no one would question his decision to exclude them from civilized space. The exercise began with both fleets moving toward each other. The alien ships moved in perfect formations, their weapons charging with colorful energy displays. Each species had its own fighting style, but all of them used advanced energy weapons that could punch through most armor. The human ships moved differently. Their formations looked sloppy and unorganized. Some ships moved too fast, others too slow. To the watching aliens, it looked like the humans did not know how to fight as a team. Captain Amy Rodriguez commanded the HSS Vigilant. She watched her sensors as alien energy beams started hitting human ships. The beams were powerful and precise, exactly what she expected from advanced civilizations. But she also noticed something the aliens had missed. "Captain," her sensor officer reported, "all human ships are taking damage, but none are retreating." Amy nodded. "That's because we are not supposed to retreat. For 30 minutes, it looked like the aliens were right. Human ships took hit after hit from energy weapons. Their armor was scarred and burned. Several ships looked dead in space, drifting without power. The alien commanders started to relax, thinking the exercise was almost over. But the human ships were not dead. They were waiting." Admiral Carter watched the battle from her command ship. Her fleet looked beaten, but she knew better. This was all part of the plan. Human ships were built to take punishment and keep fighting. Now it was time to show the aliens what real punishment looked like. "All ships," Carter said into her communication system. Phase 2. Switch to kinetic protocols. Across the human fleet, things started to change. What the aliens had thought were crude armor plates suddenly moved. They slid apart and folded back, revealing weapons that no alien had ever seen before. Massive gun barrels emerged from hidden compartments. Missile tubes opened like hungry mouths. The ugly human ships transformed into something much more dangerous. Captain Roy Henderson commanded the HSS Thunderbolt. When he received Carter's order, he smiled for the first time since the exercise began. "Weapons," he called to his crew. "Load railgun batteries with tungsten penetrators." "Loaded and ready, Captain," came the reply. "Fire." The railgun fired with no flash or pretty light show. There was just a magnetic pulse that sent a tungsten rod flying through space at a large fraction of light speed. The rod hit an Altari cruiser's shields and kept going like the shields were not even there. It punched through the ship's crystal hull and came out the other side, leaving a perfectly round hole. The Altari ship exploded in a shower of crystal fragments and energy discharge. In the simulation, it was marked as destroyed. All across the human fleet, similar weapons opened fire. Railguns sent solid rounds flying at incredible speeds. Mass drivers launched chunks of metal the size of cars. Missile pods released swarms of nuclear-tipped warheads. The alien fleet had no answer. Their shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not solid objects moving at relativistic speeds. Their armor could deflect plasma beams, but not tungsten rods that hit harder than meteors. Captain Nina Foster watched through her view screen as alien ships simply disintegrated under human fire. The beautiful crystal ships shattered like glass. Bioships tried to grow thicker armor, but the human weapons tore through them faster than they could heal. Within 20 minutes, the alien fleet was in full retreat. 31 ships were marked as destroyed in the simulation. The remaining 16 were running for their lives. Their perfect formations broken and scattered. The Keeper observers, ancient beings who had watched civilizations rise and fall, sent a message to both fleets. "Exercise complete. The humans have demonstrated superior combat effectiveness." Admiral Kexton stared at his tactical display in shock. His beautiful advanced fleet had been crushed by ships that looked like flying junk. How was this possible? News of the military exercise spread through the galaxy faster than light. On every world and every station, beings talked about how the primitive humans had destroyed the advanced alien fleet. Some aliens refused to believe it. Others demanded to know how it was possible. Admiral Kexathon was furious. His pride was hurt and his reputation was damaged. He called an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council and demanded answers. "The humans cheated," he declared to the assembled representatives. "Their weapons violate all civilized rules of warfare." Ambassador Kate Johnson sat in the human section of the Great Council chamber. She was a tough woman who had spent years dealing with alien politics. She listened to Kexthon's complaints with a calm face, but inside she was ready for a fight. "Their weapons are barbaric," Kexthon continued. "Energy weapons provide clean, precise combat with predictable results. These kinetic weapons are crude and dangerous. They could damage stations or planets if they missed their targets." Other alien representatives nodded in agreement. The Xerac ambassador spoke next. "Our bioships tried to adapt to their weapons, but the damage was too fast and too severe. These weapons do not allow for honorable surrender or tactical withdrawal." The Keeper observer, an ancient being whose species was older than most stars, floated in the center of the chamber. Its voice was like wind through empty caves. "The humans use no forbidden technology. Their weapons follow the basic laws of physics." "But they are unsporting," protested the Vorthon delegate. "Our shields and armor are designed for energy combat. We have fought this way for thousands of years." Kate Johnson stood up. The chamber fell silent as all eyes turned to the human representative. She was much smaller than most of the aliens around her, but she carried herself like someone who was not afraid of anything. "You want to talk about rules?" Kate said. Her voice carried clearly through the huge chamber. "Let me tell you about human rules. Rule 1. If something threatens your family, your home, or your people, you stop it with whatever works. Rule 2. The universe does not care about your idea of fair fighting." She walked to the center of the chamber, looking at each alien representative in turn. "You call our weapons barbaric because they work too well. You call them unsporting because they do not follow your conventions. But we did not evolve in a galaxy where everyone agreed to play by the same rules." The chamber was completely quiet now. Even Admiral Kexthan had stopped talking. "We evolved on a world where survival meant adapting to reality, not wishful thinking," Kate continued. "Our weapons work because they use the basic forces of the universe. Mass, velocity, energy. These things do not care about your opinion of them." She turned to face Admiral Kexthan directly. "You want elegant combat with predictable results? Go play a game, but if something real threatens this galaxy, something that does not care about your rules or your pretty ships, you will be very glad that humans build their weapons to actually work." While the council argued about human weapons, Captain Steve Parker was leading a routine patrol in the Outer Rim systems. His ship, the HSS Guardian, was accompanied by 3 alien vessels as part of a new cooperation program. The alien crews were supposed to learn about human tactics. The patrol was boring until Parker's sensor officer detected something that made his blood run cold. "Captain," the young officer said, his voice shaking, "we have a contact. It's big." Parker looked at the sensor display and felt his stomach drop. The contact was huge, easily the size of a space station. But it was moving under its own power and it was alive. "Void Hunter," Parker whispered. The alien crews on the other ship started panicking immediately. Void Hunters were the most feared predators in the galaxy. They were living ships of unknown origin that appeared randomly in deep space. No one knew where they came from or what they wanted. They just consumed everything in their path. "All ships, this is Parker," he broadcast on the emergency channel. "Void Hunter contact confirmed. Recommend immediate withdrawal to safe distance." The alien ship started pulling back, but Parker noticed they were not running away entirely. They wanted to see what the humans would do. Throughout galactic history, no weapon had ever successfully damaged a Void Hunter. Their biometallic hulls absorbed energy weapons and grew stronger from the attack. The creature was moving toward Parker's ship now. Up close, it was even more terrifying. It looked like a cross between a whale and a machine, with organic curves covered in metallic scales. Weapon ports opened along its sides like mouths full of teeth. "Captain," his weapons officer reported, "the creature is charging some kind of energy weapon." "Very powerful," Parker nodded. He had read every report about Void Hunters and they all said the same thing. Nothing could hurt them. But those reports were written by aliens who only used energy weapons. "Load the main guns with depleted uranium penetrators," Parker ordered. "Full charge on the electromagnetic launchers." His crew moved quickly to prepare their weapons. The aliens on the other ships watched in confusion. They knew that kinetic weapons had never been tried against a Void Hunter, but they also knew that energy weapons did not work at all. The Void Hunter fired first. A beam of pure energy struck Parker's ship and made the hull ring like a bell. But the human ship's armor held. It was designed to absorb and spread energy impacts across the entire structure. "Our turn," Parker said. "Fire all guns." The HSS Guardian's main weapons fired in sequence. 6 electromagnetic cannons launched depleted uranium rounds at the Void Hunter. The rounds were much smaller than the creature, but they were moving fast enough to punch through almost anything. The first round hit the Void Hunter in what might have been its head section. Instead of being absorbed like energy weapons, the solid projectile punched deep into the creature's hull. Black fluid sprayed out like blood. The creature made a sound that came through space itself, a scream of pain and surprise that the humans felt in their bones. The other rounds hit and did more damage. For the first time in recorded history, a Void Hunter was hurt. The massive creature stopped its attack and began pulling back. Its wounds were closing, but slowly. It seemed confused and uncertain, as if it had never experienced pain before. "Follow up," Parker ordered. "Full spread all weapons." The Guardian fired everything it had. Railguns, mass drivers, missile pods. Every kinetic weapon on the ship launched its payload at the retreating creature. Most of the shots hit, tearing more holes in the Void Hunter's hull. The creature had enough. It turned and fled into deep space, leaving a trail of black fluid behind. The alien ship sat in stunned silence, trying to process what they had just seen. Later, reports of the encounter reached every corner of the galaxy. For the first time ever, someone had driven off a Void Hunter. The beings that had terrorized space lanes for thousands of years could be heard after all. Admiral Kexthon read the report in his private quarters. He stared at the tactical analysis for a long time, trying to understand what it meant. The humans had not just beaten his fleet in a mock battle. They had accomplished something that no advanced civilization had ever managed. Maybe he thought there was more to these primitive humans than he had realized. Maybe their ugly ships and crude weapons were not signs of backwardness, but of a different kind of intelligence. Maybe they had learned something that his people had forgotten. Outside his window, stars shone in the darkness of space. Somewhere out there, other Void Hunters were hunting. And now, for the first time in galactic history, something was hunting them back. 6 months after the Void Hunter encounter, the galaxy faced something it had never seen before. Deep space sensors detected massive objects entering the outer rim through hyperspace routes that should not exist. The objects were huge, each one the size of a small moon, and they were moving toward inhabited systems. Admiral Helen Carter received the emergency alert while she was reviewing new ship designs. The message was simple but terrifying. Unknown invasion force detected. All available ships report for emergency duty. Carter reached the command center within minutes. The main display showed a tactical map of the galaxy with red dots marking the invasion fleet. There were dozens of them, spread across multiple sectors. Each red dot represented something larger than the biggest space station ever built. "What are we looking at?" Carter asked. Commander Lisa Brooks, who had been transferred from Nexus Station to Fleet Command, pulled up detailed sensor readings. "We call them devourers," she said. "They consume everything, planets, moons, asteroids, even space stations. They strip away all matter to fuel their fleet." The display showed images from outer rim colonies. Where green worlds had existed just days before, there was nothing but empty space. Entire solar systems had been consumed, leaving only their stars burning alone in the void. "How many ships do we have available?" Carter asked. "The Galactic Defense Force has mobilized everything," Brooks replied. 300 ships from 12 different species. The most powerful fleet ever assembled. And the humans? 42 ships ready for combat. Every vessel we can spare without leaving Earth defenseless. Carter studied the tactical display. The human fleet was outnumbered by both the aliens and the invaders. But she had learned something important over the past months. Numbers were not always what mattered most in space combat. The first major battle took place at Kepler Station, an important trade hub in the Middle Rim. The Galactic Defense Force arrived in perfect formation, their ships gleaming in the light of the local star. Energy weapons charged and shields powered up as they prepared to face the unknown enemy. The Devourers appeared out of hyperspace like nightmares made real. Their ships were not built, they were grown. Massive organic structures that looked like they were made from the bones and flesh of consumed worlds. They moved through space like predators, hungry and relentless. Admiral Kexthon commanded the alien fleet from his flagship. He had put aside his pride to work with the humans, but he still believed that advanced technology would win the day. "All ships," he broadcast, "open fire with full energy weapons." The alien fleet unleashed everything they had. Energy beams, plasma cannons, particle weapons. The space around Kepler Station lit up like a rainbow of destruction. The attacks were beautiful and precise, exactly what centuries of advanced civilization could produce. The energy weapons struck the Devourer ships and simply disappeared. The organic hulls absorbed the attacks and converted them into fuel. Instead of being damaged, the invader ships seemed to grow stronger and larger. "Impossible," Kexthon whispered, as he watched his most powerful weapons have no effect at all. "Nothing can absorb that much energy." The Devourers began their counterattack. They did not use energy weapons like the civilized races. Instead, they launched clouds of smaller creatures, living missiles that swarmed over the alien ships. The creatures burrowed through hulls and began consuming the ships from the inside. The beautiful formations of the Galactic Defense Force broke apart as ships exploded or went dead in space. Crews abandoned vessels that were being eaten alive by the invader creatures. Within an hour, Half the alien fleet was destroyed or disabled. All ships retreat, Kexthon ordered. Fall back to the inner systems. The retreat from Kepler Station was a disaster. The most advanced military force in galactic history had been swept aside like leaves in a storm. Entire species began preparing for extinction as the Devourers moved deeper into inhabited space. In the emergency session of the Galactic Council, panic filled the Great Chamber. Representatives from dozens of worlds demanded answers that no one had. How could they fight an enemy that absorbed their most powerful weapons? Admiral Kexthon stood before the assembled delegates, his crystal skin dim with defeat. Our energy weapons are useless, he admitted. The invaders convert our attacks into fuel for their own ships. Every shot we fire makes them stronger. The chamber erupted in frightened voices as species representatives demanded solutions. Some wanted to negotiate with the invaders. Others suggested hiding in deep space until the threat passed. A few proposed surrendering entire worlds to save the rest. Ambassador Kate Johnson listened to the panic for several minutes before standing up. The chamber gradually fell quiet as the human representative walked to the center of the floor. The Galactic Defense Force failed because you tried to fight these things the same way you fight each other, she said calmly. You used energy weapons because that is what civilized races do. But these invaders are not civilized. They are predators. She turned to address the entire assembly. Humans know how to fight predators. We have been doing it for millions of years. You hunt predators with the right tools, not the pretty ones. Admiral Kexthon stepped forward. His voice was quiet, almost humble. What do you propose, Ambassador? Kate looked at him directly. Let humans refit your ships with our weapons. Kinetic weapons that cannot be absorbed or converted. Then let us show you how predators should be hunted. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in galactic history, alien ships would be equipped with human weapons and commanded using human tactics. The beautiful energy weapons were removed and replaced with ugly railguns and missile pods. Elegant ship designs were modified to carry mass drivers and electromagnetic cannons. Admiral Carter took command of the combined fleet. She had 300 ships, but now they all carried weapons that worked on the same principle: hit the target with something solid moving very fast. The final preparation took place at Sanctuary Prime, a fortress world that guarded the approaches to the core systems. If the Devourers broke through here, they would reach the homeworlds of every major species. Captain Kevin Murphy commanded the human vanguard, 50 ships equipped with the heaviest weapons available. His job was to hit the invaders first and hit them hard enough to break their formation. As the combined fleet waited in space around Sanctuary Prime, Murphy looked at the mixture of ships under his command. Altari crystal ships now bristled with crude-looking railguns. Xerac bioships had been modified to carry human missile systems. Every elegant design had been turned into a weapons platform. It is not pretty, admitted Captain Beth Taylor, whose ship now carried nuclear-tipped kinetic penetrators. But pretty does not win wars, Murphy nodded. Physics wins wars. And we are about to give these things a lesson in physics they will never forget. The Devourers arrived at Sanctuary Prime expecting another easy victory. They had consumed 7 star systems and absorbed the energy from hundreds of ships. Nothing in the galaxy could stop them. They were about to learn that they had never fought humans before. The Battle of Sanctuary Prime began at dawn local time. The Devourer fleet emerged from hyperspace like a plague of locusts, their massive bioships blotting out the stars. There were more of them now. They had grown larger and stronger from consuming entire worlds. Admiral Carter watched from her command ship as the enemy fleet approached. The Devourers moved with confidence, expecting another easy victory like they had won at Kepler Station. They had no idea that everything had changed. All human ships, Carter broadcast, remember your training. Hit them hard, hit them fast, and do not let up until they are all destroyed. Captain Kevin Murphy led the first attack wave. His 50 ships accelerated toward the Devourer fleet at maximum speed. To alien observers, it looked like suicide. Tiny human vessels charging directly at enemies 100 times their size. But Murphy knew something the aliens were still learning. In space combat, size was not always an advantage. Sometimes being small and fast was better than being big and slow. All weapons, prepare to fire, Murphy ordered. Target the largest enemy ship. Full spread, nuclear-tipped penetrators. The human ships fired as one. Hundreds of kinetic rounds streaked through space, each one carrying enough destructive power to level a city. The round struck the lead Devourer ship and punched deep into its organic hull before exploding. The massive bioship convulsed as nuclear fire burned through its interior. Black fluid sprayed from dozens of wounds as the creature tried to heal itself. But the damage was too severe and too widespread. For the first time since the invasion began, a Devourer ship died. The other invader ships paused in confusion. They had never seen one of their own killed before. In that moment of hesitation, the rest of the human fleet struck. Captain Beth Taylor commanded a squadron of heavy assault ships. Her vessels carried the largest kinetic weapons that human engineers could build, mass drivers that could launch projectiles the size of cars at enormous speed. "Fire everything," Taylor ordered. "Show them what humans do to things that threaten our friends." The mass drivers fired with thunderous electromagnetic pulses. Each projectile was made of depleted uranium and tungsten, materials chosen for their ability to punch through any armor. The rounds hit their targets like the hammer of an angry god. Devourer ships exploded in chains of destruction as the kinetic rounds tore through their hulls. The organic creatures that formed the invader fleet had never faced anything like this. They were built to absorb energy and convert it to fuel. But solid matter moving at relativistic speeds was something entirely different. Admiral Kexthon watched from his refitted flagship as human tactics destroyed enemies that had seemed invincible. His crystal ship now carried railguns and missile pods instead of elegant energy weapons. The modifications were ugly, but they worked. "All Altari ships," he broadcast, "follow the human example. Target the enemy with kinetic weapons only." The alien ships joined the attack with weapons they barely understood but had learned to use. Railgun rounds from crystal ships mixed with missile volleys from biovessels. The entire combined fleet was fighting like humans now. Brutal, direct, and devastatingly effective. The Devourers tried to adapt. Some ships attempted to grow thicker armor, but the kinetic weapons punched through faster than the creatures could heal. Others tried to dodge, but space was filled with thousands of projectiles moving in every direction. Captain Danny Phillips, commanding the HSS Retribution, noticed that some Devourer ships were trying to retreat. "Not so fast," he muttered. "Nobody leaves until we are done with them." His ship launched a spread of guided missiles, each one equipped with its own targeting system and nuclear warhead. The missiles chased the fleeing Devourers through space, exploding against their hulls and tearing massive holes in their organic structure. The battle turned into a massacre. What had started as an invasion became a rout as the Devourer fleet was systematically destroyed by weapons they had no defense against. Ships that had consumed entire worlds died under the barrage of human-designed kinetics. Within 3 hours it was over. The space around Sanctuary Prime was filled with debris from dead invader ships. A few Devourers tried to escape through hyperspace, but human pursuit ships followed them and finished the job. The galaxy was saved by the species that everyone had called primitive. In the aftermath, as rescue ships searched for survivors and engineers examined wreckage, a new understanding spread through the civilized worlds. The elegant energy weapons that had defined galactic warfare for thousands of years were not the ultimate achievement of military technology. They were just one way of fighting among many possible ways. Admiral Kexthon met with Admiral Carter on Nexus Station, where the whole crisis had begun months earlier. The two officers stood in an observation deck, looking out at the mixed fleet of human and alien ships. "I owe you an apology," Kexthon said quietly. His crystal skin was brighter now, showing what might have been respect or gratitude. "I called your ships primitive. I said your weapons were crude." Carter smiled. "They are crude, but crude can be very effective when used properly." "How did you know?" Kexthon asked. "How did your people understand what we missed?" Carter was quiet for a moment, thinking about how to explain. "Your species reached for the stars seeking beauty and transcendence. You wanted to become something greater than what you were. That is admirable." She pointed at a human ship docking nearby, its hull scarred from battle but still functional. "Humans reached for the stars knowing that the universe is dangerous. We expected to find things that wanted to kill us, so we prepared for war. And that preparation saved us all," Kexthon acknowledged. "This time," Carter agreed, "but there will be other threats. Other predators. The universe is a big place and not everything in it is friendly." Over the following months, the galaxy began to change. Human military advisors were assigned to every major fleet. Alien shipyards retooled to produce kinetic weapons alongside energy systems. The beautiful, elegant ships of the advanced races were modified to carry ugly but effective human weapons. The species that had once mocked human ships now studied them carefully. Engineers from dozens of worlds visited human shipyards to learn how to build vessels that could take damage and keep fighting. The crude-looking armor and redundant systems that aliens had laughed at became the new standard for military vessels. But the most important change was in how the galaxy thought about warfare itself. The civilized races had forgotten that sometimes the universe fights back. They had become so focused on elegant solutions that they had lost sight of effective ones. Captain Jake Morrison, who had endured alien mockery at the beginning of the crisis, now found himself teaching combat tactics to beings who had once called him primitive. His ugly ship, the HSS Defiance, was studied by alien engineers who wanted to understand how humans built vessels that could survive anything. The secret, Jake told a group of alien officers, is not to build ships that look good. Build ships that work when everything goes wrong. As the months passed, the galaxy settled into a new normal. Trade resumed and the various species went back to their daily lives. But everyone remembered the lesson of the Devourer War. Beauty and elegance were wonderful things, but when real danger came calling, you wanted humans on your side. The species that had once been called too primitive for civilized space became its guardians. Not because they wanted to rule, but because they were the ones willing to do the hard, ugly work of keeping everyone safe. And in the deep spaces between the stars, where unknown threats might still be lurking, human ships continued their patrols, ready for whatever came next.